we are going to talk about SMTP. Okay, so SMTP is the protocol associated with the email which is required for email transmission. Actually, whenever you are transferring the mail through the message, you will require a message transfer agent that we have already seen in the previous lecture. So to send a mail will require MTA at client side as well as MTA at server side also. So a formal protocol that defines this MTA client and server in the internet, we call it as a simple mail transfer protocol or SMTP. So this SMTP is the protocol associated with the MTA client and MTA server. So this is how exactly the picture looks like. So this is a client alias who is a email sender which is connected in a LAN or WAN. Then here you will require a SMTP protocol so that you can communicate with the mail server, and this client will communicate with a mail server at sender's end. So this SMTP protocol will be required. Now this SMTP protocol or the mail server is a client for the next server or the receiving end server. So this will is a client. So again, between this client and this server there is an internet. So this SMTP will be required for transferring. So these are the two MTAs are required. So for this MTA you will be requiring SMTP protocol, and from server to client, which is a access protocol which is using MAA, message access agent. So this is using the different protocols, that is a POP or IMAP type of protocol. So we are interested in SMTP protocol, so we will be discussing that one. Okay, so SMTP is used twice as we have seen in the previous diagrams. So between the sender and the sender's mail server, and sender's mail server and the receiving end server, mail server. So SMTP simply defines how the command and responses must be sent back and forth. That means how you are sending the commands and how you will be getting the responses. So that is decided by this SMTP. So SMTP uses the commands and responses to transfer the message between the MTA client and MTA server. So that is very important. So it will send a command to from MTA client to MTA server, and the response from MTA server to MTA client. So each command and reply is terminated by a 2-character end of line token. So this is a carriage return and line feed type of characters are there. So these characters are utilized by each command and reply. So it is used at the end of this one. So what is that command? So commands are sent from client to server, and the format of the command is a keyword followed by an argument. It is a keyword followed by an argument. So it consists a keyword followed by a 0 and or more arguments. So SMTP defines 14 types of commands, 14 commands are there, and the response are sent back from server to client. So this is how exactly the SMPS works. The response of the 3-digit code, as we have already seen it in case of FTP, the same kind of response is also there. So the response is a 3-digit code that may be followed by an additional textual information. So actually how there are some mail transfer phases are there. So let us try to understand how the mail transfer phases takes place through SMTP. So the process transferring of a mail occurs in 3 phases. First one is you need to establish the connection, then actual mail transfer, and mail termination. So first you have to establish the connection. How you are going to establish the connection? Whenever you want to send an email from client to other client which is out of your network or which is on internet, first you need to establish the connection. So how you are going to establish the connection? Whenever after client has made a TCP connection. So first you have to, obviously since it is the internet, so you have to keep in mind that you will be using a TCP IP protocol. So for that purpose you need to work that you need to first establish the TCP connection. So TCP connection is well known port, you will be using 25. The SMTP server starts the connection phase. That means first you have to start with the TCP connection, and after that SMTP server will start the connection phase, and it will involve the 3 steps. First it will send a code 220, that means service is ready. So the server will send the message to the client that I am ready, and I am ready to receive the mail, and if receiver is not ready, it will send a 421 type of service code. Okay, then client sends a hello message to identify itself using domain name address. What is that domain name address and what are that, we are going to see it afterwards, but you just try to know that domain name means just like a gmail.com. okay, so this is a domain name. So this step is necessary to inform the server of domain name of the client. So you need to understand what is the domain name of the client, and the server responds with a code of 250. That means first initially it sends 220 if it is ready. If it is not ready, it will send 421 code. Then client will send a hello, and it will try to find out the domain name, and the domain name is necessary for the server to add. Then the server will respond with a code of 250. That means your command is request command is completed, and some other code depending on the situation. After that, the next phase is of message transfer. Next phase is of message transfer. Once the connection is established, the server, a single message between a sender and a more recipient can be exchanged. Now how actually the message has been transferred technically, you just try to understand it. The client will send a mail from a message to introduce a sender of the message. Then it includes the mail address of the sender in the mailbox and the domain name, such as let us say xyz@gmail.com. okay, I'm not promoting any Gmail or any kind of, I'm just taking it as an example. So xyz is a mailbox name and domain name is gmail.com. okay, so this step is needed to give the server the return mail address for returning errors or reporting message. So whenever if anything goes wrong, either in the domain name or either in the your mailbox name, you will be getting a mail back that this address does not exist or the address is wrong. This kind of messages you will be getting, that is called as a failure of the delivery. Then the server responds with a code of 250 and some other appropriate code. Then client sends a recipient message to, which includes the mail address of the recipient. Then server responds with a code of 250 or other appropriate code. Then client sends the data message to initialize the message transfer. Then server responds with a code of 354, that start mail input or any other appropriate message. Then client again sends a content of the message in a consecutive lines. So whatever the data is there, even it is in textual form or you are able to see it is in page form, but it is sent in a line format by terminated by 2 characters at the end of the token, that is a carriage return and line feed. So you might be familiar with this kind of concept when you are programming in C++. okay, so you are using /n, so /n will go to the next line. That type of concept is here. So return carriage and line feed will be there. So the message is terminated by line containing just one period, and the server responds with again the code 250. So first you establish the connection. After establishing the connection, you send the address of the appropriate address. With that appropriate address, again you will get the response from the server. Then you start transferring your data. Again, once you do it line by line, and your data will be again you will get the response from the server. So this is how actually the message gets transferred using SMTP. Then the final is you'll be terminating the connection once the message is transmitted successfully. Obviously, for that purpose, your mailbox name and domain name should be a proper one, and if it is not proper, your mail get bounced. Okay, so if the message is mailbox and domain name is proper and connection is established and data is transferred successfully, then client terminates the connections. So it involves two steps. So client will send a quit command and server will respond with the code of 221 with appropriate text followed by that one. Okay, so this is how you can transfer your email from client to other client or client to server. Okay, so the next part, which is again very essential for the client server type of architecture, so that is a telnet. That means client and server, they want to communicate with each other, so client has to log into server. So this emulator or this software, telnet software application, will help you to communicate with this client and server. So one of the original remote logging protocol is telnet, and it is the abbreviation of terminal network. So you can see TE, I have written it in red, and L is in red and net is in red, so it is abbreviation of terminal network. Okay, then actually it is associated with a TCP/IP protocol for virtual services which are proposed by ISO. Okay, so it is a standard for TCP/IP for virtual terminal service. So even though you will be using at application layer, but its main task is at TCP/IP protocol. The telnet enables the establishment of connection to the remote system in such a way that it appears like you are at that terminal, you are at server terminal. Okay, that means your terminal, the client, you as a client, even though you are at this place and server is at some other place, when you enter into that server or when you log into that server, it appears like that you are at that place only. So this is what the telnet enables you to establish the connection. This is what the beauty of telnet. The telnet is a general purpose client server application program. Okay, so how actually it takes place, let us try to understand. So first try to understand what do you mean by local logging and what do you mean by remote logging. Okay, local logging means in a LAN itself you have a server and you have a client and you are trying to log on the this LAN server. So simply whatever may be the user password or that information is there, so you will be sending it to the terminal driver, and that terminal driver will, that operating system will decide it, and that will allow you to access the application programs. But that is not the case with remote logging. So remote logging, what it does, the first it will go to the terminal driver. So operating system is having that terminal driver. This terminal driver through telnet, it will come to your TCP/IP network, and through TCP/IP it will get connected to the internet, and receiving end, this TCP/IP will have a communication with a telnet server, and this telnet server will have a pseudo terminal drivers. So pseudo terminal drivers may be different one. from the terminal drivers. So this pseudo terminal drivers will allow you to access the program or access the applications. So this is how actually the remote logging is happening. We will see it in detail. So local logging, when user logs into a local system, that is called as a local logging. Local logging means on a LAN itself you are logging it to. That is not a remote server. Okay. Then user types a terminal or at a workstation running on a terminal emulator. So terminal emulator is there. So if you are running basically this telnet was designed for a Unix type of system. So previously Unix systems were there, and the terminals were there, workstations were there, which does not have any hard disk type of system, and you need to, whenever you boot it from your terminal come to this terminal emulator, and you have to enter the username and password to that one, and you need to get the access of the server. This was the system previously. So the keystrokes are accepted by the terminal driver. Then terminal driver passes the characteristics to the operating system. If operating system in turn interprets the combination of characters, that means whatever may be the username you are typing it will interpret it, and it invokes the desired application, program or utility. So it will, the operating system which is available on the system server, it will interpret it and it will allow you to enter in the characters. Now the remote logging is little bit different. What happens when a user want to access the application, program or a utility located at a remote machine? So it performs a remote logging. Okay. So here the telnet client and telnet server came into existence, or they came into picture. Now user sends a keystroke to the terminal driver where the local operating system accepts the character but it does not interpret. In previous case it accepts the characters and it interprets, but here the client whenever enters the characters, these characters are not interpreted by the operating system of the client. Okay, what happens next? The characters are sent to the telnet client, which transfers the characters into a universal character set that is called as a virtual network terminal, NVT characters, and it are delivered to the TCP/IP stack. Okay, that means first your characters are get converted into a universal characters that is called as the NVT characters, and these are delivered to TCP/IP, and these TCP/IP packets are sent over the internet, and at receiving end again this TCP/IP will work with this NVT character, and it will extract these NVT characters are delivered to the operating system, and this will be extracted and that will be get converted. So the system is passed to the telnet server, which changes the characters, and corresponding characters are understood by the remote characters operating system. And this is how, that means whenever you are typing your username, so this username is not interpreted by your machine. It will go to your telnet client. The telnet client will convert it into TCP/IP format, NVT characters. NVT characters are delivered in the TCP/IP stack format, and again through internet at receiving end it goes to the server TCP/IP stack. The server TCP/IP stack will send the command to telnet server. The telnet server will convert this NVT character into the actual characters, and these actual characters are understood by the server, and the server will come to know, okay, this is the username and this is the password you will be getting. So whether it is correct or not, if it is correctly interpreted, you will get the access of that one. Okay, if it is not, then you will get a reverse message back. your login ID is not correct or like that. So such kind of information is there. So you can get connected to the remote logging with such kind of. So when characters are not passed directly from operating system, because remote logging system is not designed to receive the characters from the telnet server. So it is designed to receive from terminal driver. It is designed to receive from terminal driver. So it is not possible to directly it can interpret. So the solution for that purpose is that you will be requiring a pseudo terminal driver which pretends that characters are coming from the terminal. Okay. So terminal driver is not utilized as it is used in previous case of local logging. So here you will be requiring, because these characters are not directly interpreted, so you will be requiring a pseudo terminal drivers, so which will pretend these characters that these are coming from the terminals, and the operating system then passes these characters to the appropriate application programs, because the application programs, there might be a number of application programs, so you will be getting the appropriate logging or appropriate access to the appropriate program. Okay, so this is how you will be getting the information or remote logging. So the concept of NVT is little bit like this. So whenever you are sending the terminal, from this terminal this characters gets to this telnet client. So telnet client will convert it into NVT character set. So through internet it will go to the telnet server. NVT characters will be again converted into remote computer character set, and this pseudo terminal driver will convert it into actual characters, and this actual characters will identify the appropriate application, and to that application you will be getting the access. So this NVT character set came into two formats. First one is the data character and second one is the control character. So data character, it is a 8, actually NVT character set is of 8 bit for both the formats. So data character, it starts with a 0, and for control it starts with a 1. Okay. So Telnet solves this problem specifically, specific emulator, by defining the universal interface called as a network virtual terminal character set. So the problem is that you will require a specific emulator, but this NVT will help you to come out of this one. Then the client Telnet translates the character that are coming from the local terminal to NVT form and delivers them to the network. The server Telnet on the other hand translates the data and commands. So from NVT form into the form acceptable by the remote computer. We have already discussed it. So NVT character set, NVT uses the two sets of character of 8 bits. First one is for data and second one is for control. So for example, the control characters you'll be sending with this one EOF, that indicates it's the end of file, EOR, that indicates it's the end of record, or BRK indicates it's a break. There are few more control characters are there. I have taken the few examples over here so that you can understand how exactly the control characters are set. So this EOF and whatever maybe the informations are there, that information you will get through the various resources, either through the books or either through the net. You just ping and you just get the information related to this. Okay. So technically speaking, if we speak it technically, the Telnet uses only one TCP connection. Okay, unlike FTP is using two TCP connections. Here it will be using one FTP connection. So server waits for the Telnet client connection request at well-known port 23. Then the client opens the Telnet connection from its side whenever the user requests from one. The same TCP connection is used to transfer the data as well as control characters, and the control characters are embedded in the data characters itself. So most of the TELNET implementation are operated in three modes. First one is the default mode. Default mode means default mode, character mode and line mode. So default mode means whenever you are typing the characters for logging, so it will wait till you complete that line. It will wait till you complete that line. Okay. Then once the line is completed, it will get shifted. It will get shifted from client to. So these characters will appear, and once it is completed, this line will send to the server and it will be interpreted. So this is called the default mode. In character mode, as soon as you type it, the character is sent on the net, and the server will take care note of it, and these characters will be echoed on your terminal. That means you type, let us say type A, so A will be transmitted simultaneously. So the problem with this these two types of character modes are that you have to wait till the transmission is required in first case, and in second case for every character you have to send the character. So this will unnecessarily create the overheads on the network. So to overcome these two deficiencies of default mode and character mode, the line mode has came into existence. So what exactly it does? So whenever the characters are there, a line by line it will send it to the server and it will be interpreted. So whenever you first type the user ID name, so that will be sent, and then you go for the password. Okay, that means you are not simultaneously typing user as well as password. So first you type the user, send it, then password, send it, and so on. So this is how exactly in three modes it works. First one is the default mode, second one is the character mode, and third one is the line mode. Okay, so this is how exactly